Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Inked Reader. Today, after 3 months of doing the first installment in these discussions, I am finally here to talk about the conviction arc from Berserk. Now, I had taken notes down while reading each volume, and they were all neat and tidy on my phone, and then my phone broke and was erased and given to me as it came in the first place, so with nothing inside. So I lost all my notes, and I am now trying to put together all my thoughts throughout those volumes I've read in the conviction arc to deliver them to you in a semi-structured manner. However, again, without my notes, I left to improvise. So the conviction arc goes from volume 14 to volume 21, which I finished last month. So I've actually already started the next arc, but I'm not gonna talk about that. However, I think this kind of came in a bit of a cycle, if you want, the conviction arc, because you start where, you know, the eclipse happens and where Griffith turns into a demon, what I would call a demon. So he turns into a demon and he does the horrible things that he does to Casca, and everybody's pretty much dead apart from our main protagonists. And at the end of the conviction arc, Griffith is back, and I think I'm gonna start probably from the end of the conviction arc and then move backward in the sense, because the end is the most fresh thing. And I was shook by the end, and also I didn't expect Griffith to come back to us as he was during the Golden Age arc. I was honestly expecting him in his demon form, so I was a bit confused because I didn't understand what was going on basically until the very last panels, and I didn't know how to react because I didn't know how he came back and what kind of Griffith came back. And then I realized that Griffith was always Griffith. Like, his arc, his character development is definitely less in terms of quantity, if you want, if you can use quantity as a word, than Guts is. Like Guts, you can see Guts going through so many things and changing so many times, while Griffith in a sense remains static. Like, his body changes, like he gets worse his action, if you want, but his inner personality is always the same. And I think that's a theme that I've started to notice, in which Griffith actually doesn't change. Like, he might change the way he presents itself to you as a reader, but his essence is always the same. And that's why I guess he is the amazing enemy, if you want, because he is unmovable. And I, you know, in the Golden Age arc, I fell in love with Griffith in a sense. I loved him as a character, and the descent into evilness, it honestly left me with a lot of feelings. And although it made a lot of sense for his character to end up the way he had, I felt despair in a sense for Griffith. This opinion comes also from, you know, me having read the first 3 volumes in the Millennium Falcon arc, but I think actually the naked truth is that Griffith has not changed. Griffith is always Griffith, and we don't see him in the conviction arc for the most of the time, so we just see the consequences of Eclipse and what that has done to Guts and Casca, and how Guts and Casca are now divided by it and then eventually reunited in a sense. But Griffith is very much in the background, and you can see that he's there somewhere and you just don't know how he's gonna come back. I didn't expect him to come back in that form physically, so I was again shook by seeing him. And I'm actually very curious, again, don't give me any spoiler because I've just started the Millennium Falcon arc, but I'm very curious to see how, because I believe that that kind of fetus, grotesque fetus that we see, was actually the baby, Guts and Casca baby. And I think I was right, but also that fetus is what then develops into the new Griffith. And from my perception is that they merged, so there is the element of actually having that fetus, the baby that was meant to be in Griffith. So I guess we're gonna see how that's gonna affect him, but whether that effect has on Griffith in the future, I will still remind myself that that's not really Griffith. Like, Griffith without that element inside would still be the Griffith that, you know, has done thus far all he has done to get to his kingdom. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'm very curious to see how that's developed, but at the same time, I think now I'm more conscious of the fact that Griffith is Griffith. Like, he's unmovable, he's unchangeable in a sense. As of now, this is my opinions as of now, having just finished the conviction arc. So I don't know if I'll change my mind, but as of now, Griffith is unchanged, and any kind of changes that we might see in the future is not actually Griffith, but it's his baby. And at the moment, I don't know how I feel about Griffith in general. Like, seeing him back as he was, I think I can't undo or can't unsee what he has done. So I'm definitely not rooting for Griffith to have a change of heart, and I think it's not in his character. Like, I would honestly be not disappointed, but I think I like Griffith, but I would not want him to redeem himself in a sense. I think what he's done is unredeemable, and I think that change in general is something that people can definitely do, but not everybody. And someone as Griffith, that if I go back, you know, if I think about psychology and his personality and whether, I don't see Griffith ever redeeming himself. So I do really hope that Griffith remain the piece of shit that he is, so then when he dies in painful ways, we can all be happy. And I would honestly feel like, I don't think he's gonna do it. I don't think Miura is gonna come and just do a redemption arc for Griffith. And I honestly stand by, I honestly hope he doesn't. Like, I think he's created the perfect arch enemy, and I think the fact that we do like Griffith at the beginning is created like as a fascinating figure. Griffith was always Griffith. I think it was kind of a visual illusion if we had, and then it's like, you know, you remove the illusion and at the core was always the same. So I did make this journey, I guess, during the conviction arc, just because I had a lot of time of not having Griffith on the page, so being able to think about the Golden Age arc and what happened to him, to actually realize that Miura made us kind of, I don't know, made me, maybe that's the right thing to say, made me really like Griffith as a character with all his flaws and all his things. And now he's like, I kind of realized that I decided to put on this shiny armor, let's just say that as a metaphor though, on Griffith, and I've made Griffith bigger than it was actually. And he was like, you know, it's kind of like you idolize him and you imagine him a certain way and you have hopes for him and whether, and I think now I've kind of started to strip down those things, and I don't think Miura has done it. I think Miura allows you to fall for Griffith and then slowly takes it away and you realize that you fooled yourself. Like, Griffith was always Griffith. And I think seeing the consequences of his actions was a perfect way for me to start realizing who Griffith really was. Like, after the eclipse, of course, there was no doubts whatsoever that he was this horrible human being. But also, I think I said, you know, as I said in my Golden Age arc review, is that Griffith descending into madness and choosing evil made sense for his character. And I think in the conviction arc, I stand by that opinion even more. And I just thought, oh God, like, you know, you idolized Griffith so much. And it was just all in your head. Miura doesn't really like try to hide him away. I keep saying we, but I kind of decided that I saw a lot in him and I wanted to see the good in him, and I realized now that Miura never gave that to me. Like, I made up a whole character, and it's so fascinating that kind of, why did I make myself like Griffith so much in the first place? Like, what was there to like? And I think, again, this is, you know, we're going down a tangent of how actually the actual picture, like the actual drawing of Griffith is made to attract the viewers in a sense. Maybe because I'm a female, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I think it's also with that personally, because Griffith is inspired by Lady Oscar from The Rose of Versailles. Some of you guys very kindly told me that. And I had been loving that and idolizing that kind of character in anime since I was a child. Now seeing Griffith, I kind of fell for Griffith like this. And that's, you know, me taking time out without Griffith and seeing the consequences of him, now being able to see actually, well, I created this illusion in my mind, but Miura never created that. I think Griffith came out of the page in that way. So now that he is back, I am shook, but I am not, I don't know, I'm for the moment, because we get just so tiny bit of Griffith, you know, we just get one thing. I think I am sold on the, well, he's a bad guy, he needs to die painfully, more than before. I was like, I would, you know, at the end of the Golden Age arc, I would still feel bad somehow if Griffith was to die in that moment. So even after all he'd done, like, I just couldn't put together pieces in my head, and now I'm a bit better, I think. I hope so. At the moment I'm feeling like I had time to digest the Eclipse scenes, and I had time to actually came out of the illusion that Griffith was, and realizing though how it's still Griffith, and I love how he's just Griffith. His essence is Griffith. They should name a personality disorder Griffith, because that's how good his character is. Said that, enough of Griffith. I did struggle at the beginning of the Conviction arc, and I think we go from the Eclipse, which is very intense, to then have story arc around these fairy children that were transformed in fairy evil fairies, elves, whatever they were. And I was like, we can't just pass from rape, mayhem, murder to bugs. I was just thrown off. Probably to these days is one of the, you know, up to volume 21, it was probably the most weak, in my personal opinion, volume. I don't know, I think it was volume 14 or 15, something of the sort. Rosine. I think the main protagonist was Rosine. The bugs, sorry, I'm gonna call them the bugs. They were children transformed into demons, and they were all children with horrible lives, but Rosine was the main evil one, and so that volume to these days is is my least favorite. And I have to say that definitely my focus shifted from Griffith in the, you know, Golden Age arc. Was definitely my focus was on Griffith. Now I'm very much focused on Guts and Casca, which is a bit normal if you want, because Griffith is simply not there. But while I thought that Griffith was the protagonist of the Golden Age arc in a sense, now definitely I can see Guts as the main protagonist from the Conviction arc. And I did really like his character development. I loved how he's someone who tends to put distance between the, you know, the people that he loved and himself, but he's also someone who deals with major trauma or major events in his life by taking his word and leaving. And now through the Conviction arc, you see him realizing, after traveling and fighting demons and people, that actually he had abandoned Casca just because he didn't know what to do with it, and that was not the right thing to do. So the fact that he comes back to Casca and then kind of say, you know, this time I won't leave you anymore, I really appreciated that kind of sitting back that he does, and at one point just say, well, I'm someone who tends to leave, with someone who, when there is a big problem or there is something I don't know how to handle, I just leave. And that's something that many of us do, and I think it does take a lot of courage, and it's very brave thing to sit down and just say, I'm a leaver, like I'm someone who tends to put distance and leave, and actually to go back. So that's something I absolutely loved about Guts' development. Casca, we don't have really much any development of Casca in a sense. I think Casca journey has to be way slower than any other character, because at the end of the day she has gone through the most traumatic experience between the three, Griffith, Guts and Casca. And people will probably say, oh, you are wrong or whatever. Like, that's, I think Casca's trauma at the moment is the most deep and complex, and so it does make sense that we see her basically non-verbal throughout, and she's kind of retrieving this almost naive child. There is just nothing at the moment I can see in the conviction arc of the Casca that I knew from the Golden Age arc, and I don't know, I'm curious to see where she's gonna go, but I do appreciate the fact that her character has stayed in kind of this limbo, non-verbal child that's so traumatized that she's not speaking, basically. She's just behaving like I don't even describe her as a child, I don't know. She's just literally following, going without apparently any aim or any destination, and she's just a kid. She's just having a baby around, and I do like that throughout, you know, all the volumes of the conviction arc, she just stays that way. Because I think it just gives the reader an accurate portrait of, you know, complex PTSD. It's not like, oh yeah, one volume and then she's back to normal fighting weather. I think Miura is gonna take its time with it, and I respect him for that, because I think it's way more realistic again. And I think again this is probably the scope of Berserk, is giving you this story that ultimately, although being in a fantasy world, it has extremely realistic characters development. The same for other characters that are introduced, and I loved how we hear things get very dark, and how the church and the tortures that the church delivers on the population of heretics and so forth are explored. How these characters, these angels at one point appear, and are they angels, are they good, are they not? I'm very curious to see where Miura is going with this, or, you know, evil versus good, but where is the goodness? Because I don't see it. So I'm very curious, no spoilers, to see what is he doing, because the angels that are given to us, so the people from the church, are actually as bad as the devils. Like, they torture, maim, murder, rape, that they do such horrible things. So are they truly angels? Are they just demon? Is there no angel, no good in this world? I'm very curious to have all the answers to these questions, but really loved those characters, and I really liked the character. I can't say her name, so I'm gonna put a picture here because I don't remember her name.
A few moments later.
Farnese, might be Farnese. It's an Italian name, and I think it's Farnese. So her, which is, it's a surname in Italy. It's not really a true first name. It's not a name of a person, it's a surname of a family, usually in Italy. And I really, really love her companion. And again, because I've read now part of the Millennium Falcon, now I know how they're connected. So, but I don't want to spoil too much in the case someone has not seen, is following along with me, I don't know for whatever reason. Anyway, I know now about the connection of the two, and I really love how during the conviction arc, again, we see their arc of, you know, from being with the church, a leader, and having, you know, all the inner trauma that she had, to now deciding, well, actually things might not be as I seem. So she's starting to question herself, and she just decides at the end to go with guts and see what happens. And I think that's something that I don't know how I feel about her character, but I do like what's happening to her. So I don't know if I like the character herself. I do definitely like her companion. I have to say about her companion that it's the only character that actually, it doesn't seem to fit the Berserk world as all the others do. Like, he's the only one that I think he must be coming from another comic book or whatever. I don't know, there's something about him and his story that doesn't make him fit perfectly with the others, which is not necessarily a negative thing. Just all the time that he comes in, it feels like he's coming from, they're doing a mashup of like two different manga series. I don't know why. Maybe it reminds me of something else I've read in another manga comic. It feels like an Easter egg every time he comes in, and I don't understand why. And to sum it up, I really like the new characters we are introduced. I like that the world is expanding and talking about the church, and talking about, as someone who doesn't really like having like Catholic churches in their plot, I think when they're done in this way, depicted in the most grotesque way possible if you want, I do like, because we spend so much time talking about evil, that it's just makes a lot of sense to look at the other side. And I love the take of, well, the other side is even worse, possibly. So I really like that. I think it's expanding, the plot is expanding, and I was very curious where this was going after the Golden Age. I'm still very curious to see, like, I'm starting to think I understand what Griffith is all about, but I'm very curious to see how the two are gonna meet, clash, fight. I think there is this element, there is this mystic element behind all of this. I think there is overarching plot, and there is this guy that is a skeleton that saves Guts from the eclipse, and his role is very confusing, so I won't have the answers. I'm very curious to get all my answers in, and this is what I could think from the top of my head that I absolutely love. Seeing the consequences of Griffith's action, but also seeing the consequences of Guts' choices, and him then reflecting on those choices and saying this is not the right thing to do, so try then to do the right thing and go back and do the right thing. Really loved that. I really loved how I think I am getting down the horse of loving Griffith so much, and now seeing that actually Griffith is always the same, and kind of dismantling that, not hero, but kind of, that I had in my mind. I really liked having that time of doing so, and I really love, you know, the introduction of the church, of evil versus good, and going to, you know, the atrocities that the church did, and I think that provided the right environment to introduce new characters with their own arc that then gonna all come together. And I like how Guts is putting together his own band now, and I think that's gonna be very rewarding in the end, so I'm really liking that. There were some elements of humor, very tiny bit here and there from the elf, mostly that I loved. I didn't love the start of the Conviction arc, but then changed course very quickly. I am curious to see how Guts is gonna reconnect with Casca, and I did love that we are left with Casca. Casca's character development is not really there yet, but it's taking its time, and I really love that. So yeah, these are mostly my thoughts on the Conviction arc. I'd love to hear about your thoughts about the Conviction arc. I've just read 3 volumes of the Millennium Falcon. I know that a lot of you guys love the Millennium Falcon arc, so don't spoil it for me, please, at this current moment in time. And once I've done with it, I'm gonna sit down and analyze that a bit more. I'll try to put notes in my phone, and hopefully my phone won't break again, so next time my video can be a bit more rational. But I think I've summed it up pretty much what I do like. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. I didn't love necessarily a lot at the beginning the kid was basically starting to follow Guts around. It does play a vital role toward the end of the Conviction arc, but I am not the biggest fan of having companion kids, and it's not my thing or whether I don't love it. Like, it doesn't capture my attention, and I think it does provide that maybe comic relief that we do need sometimes. So I do understand why the kid is there, and I do understand that there was a whole thing about, you know, the baby that was lost and maybe this kid, and I don't know, I think I want to always see threads, even when they're very faint or not even there. Like, I understand why the kid has been introduced, but not the biggest fan of the choice of the kid to follow the company. I love the choice of having, you know, Farnese and her companion to do so. They do make sense. The kid, I am still on the fence about, but we will see. Thank you for watching, guys. I'd love to discuss with you in the comments what you thought about the Conviction arc, and again, these are just my opinion. This is what I took out of the Conviction arc. I will reread Berserk once I'm done with my first reread, and hopefully I will get even more. It has become a very complex story, so I think a bit of all the mythology and everything can get over your head, especially because I'm devouring the volumes. So I will take my time eventually to reread them and whether, but at the moment those are my thoughts, first impressions on the saga. So yeah, we will continue on. Let's see what Griffith does now that he's back. And I'm curious. I am, as always, very curious about what's going on. I have to say that I didn't love at the beginning the Conviction arc as much as I love the Golden Age arc. I did love the second half a lot. Just for quantity, at this moment in time, probably the Golden Age arc remains my favorite, but over there is very, 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 very slightly. I think the Conviction arc 1/3 onward was perfect. but just because of the Golden Age arc, I loved like all of it, and this I struggled with the beginning. To be fair, like I would still put Golden Age arc and the Conviction arc just right below. We will see. But thank you for watching, guys. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.